Turn to Luke chapter 6. This is part 4 of our series, Learning to Embrace the Neglected. And the theme this morning is, I was sick and you looked after me. I was sick and you looked after me, is what Jesus said in Matthew 25. But I'm going to have 2 readings, one from Luke chapter 6 and one from 1 John chapter 3. So we'll take the Luke 6 one first of all. Luke 6 verse 32. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. If you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. And then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He's kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. You know, when you read that passage of Scripture, it goes against every grain in your body, doesn't it? Maybe not your body, it doesn't mine, it kind of goes against all our kind of self kind of stuff. It's a very powerful passage of Scripture. Then it goes on to say this: do not judge and you will not be judged. Do not condemn and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over, will be poured into your lap, for with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. And that's just not talking about money. It's talking about this whole area of your judgment and your condemnation and your forgiving. If you're a generous person in giving forgiveness, it'll be given back to you, pressed down, measured, all of that kind of overflowing. The generosity of God to you and the mercy of God towards you as you are generous to others in terms of giving forgiveness and generous in your heart towards people. Very challenging passage of Scripture, that one. And then over in 1 John chapter 3 and verse 16. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down His life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for one another. If any one of you has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in you? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. This then is how we know that we belong to the truth, how we set our hearts at rest in His presence. This morning I'm wanting to talk about how God has wired us all up. God's wired us all differently to care for others. And I've asked Franklin if he'll come and just share a little bit of a testimony. And then I've got Julie Osborne who's going to follow and share a story from her experience as well. Just to give you little glimpses, because basically I'm sharing stories this morning about how we can help others. So thanks, Franklin.
And David, whom I've known for 10 years. David's a very affectionate man. He's 54. He'll hug strangers quite easily. He loves music. He loves singing in inverted commas. He can't sing in tune. He loves drumming. He can't drum in correct rhythm. He loves the trampoline. He laughs a lot. He can get quite morose at times. He does funny things sometimes. I remember once I had him in my car and I was talking on the cell phone, and so he pulled off his shoe and he started talking to his shoe. He's very mischievous. He's naughty. He can be manipulative. He's just like everybody else. He's got varicose veins and his heart's playing up, and he's got problems with the dentist and so on. And so, in a lot of ways, he's just like you and me. But David has Down syndrome. He lives with 5 guys in a house in Paramahoe in 24-hour care, and nearly all of them are to some degree autistic. He can't read, he can't write, I don't think he knows his letters, he can't count, he has no sense of value, whatever. So if you take him shopping, you've got to say, no, not 3, 1, David, put them back. Now, he can understand what's said to him, but he can't talk. He doesn't talk. He tries to, but he has the most terrible stammer. Actually, I don't know if I've got time, but I'll just tell you what happened, why he can't talk. When he was a kid, evidently, he was in a home in Mangere, some intellectually handicapped home, and there was one kid who ran away, and he hid under the building, and David and his friend fed him. Now, when that was found out, he was punished by being put in with the really problem psych cases. And when he came out of there some years later, he couldn't talk. It's tragic, eh? He has this terrible stammer. Occasionally you can understand, well, I can understand what he's driving at. He will reach a word. He'll say, happy birthday. You know, he eventually gets to the word, but most of the time he just sort of gibbers trying to get a word out. So I visit him once a month as his advocate and his friend.